replenished.
Warframe is a game that has been around for 12 years since the launch of Open Beta. And in that time we have 105 Warframes, and I'm of course including Primes. Right now I have unlocked 97 of them, but it turns out that Mag Prime has continued to be my go-to Warframe, clocking in at a whopping 37.7% usage rate for me precisely, or 39.7% if you also add regular Mag. On top of that, we also have 182 primary weapons in the game, of which I have unlocked 137. But the Paris Prime obviously still remains my clear favorite, as it seems to have a usage rate of over 39.7%, or 41% if you were to add in the other Paris variants. So, as we step into this year of our Lord 2025, I don't see these trends changing anytime soon. Hello everyone, welcome back. I think it's high time that I do a 2025 loadout review for the loadout that I tend to use the most, being of course my Mag Prime loadout. Specifically of course with my Mag Prime, my Kubrow, my Paris Prime, my secondary weapon of choice being the Skyward Atlas, and of course my melee weapon of choice at this point being of course my Gram Prime. This is going to be 1 part build video, 3 parts just yapping about how I feel about the equipment that I use and how I've been using them, because despite the fact that there is this vast ocean of options available for everyone, at the end of the day, my beloved, my one and only Mag, and my beloved Paris Prime seems to always click for me in ways that I don't think I feel for any other playable character or weapon, dare I say, in a video game. So it's interesting. Chat, am I cooked? I probably very much am. There's also been a bunch of Destiny players who have been joining our community of Tenno lately, so I'm kind of hoping that my showcase of what I use can potentially give y'all some inspirations as to what you guys may be interested in later on in the game. But first, don't forget to subscribe. Did you know that doing so makes me feel better about myself? So just do it. Do it. My Warframe content has of course been a lot more sporadic lately, spliced in with semi-regular Genshin content instead. But whenever something happens in Warframe that I think is interesting and I want to talk about it, you bet your ass I'm going to make a video about it. So that's basically how we are at this moment in time. I guess that's what it means to be a semi-retired Warframe veteran. So hitting that bell icon means you will be notified of the latest videos and streams on this channel. Alright, of course, at no point should you ever feel pressure to use precisely what I use, or how I use them, or even with the builds that I use. There is, once again, a vast ocean of options available. There is probably going to be something there for you that will probably click with you. So either way, though, this has been how I have been enjoying the game the most for the 12 years. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. These days, one of the prime reasons why I stick with Mag Prime is because of the Gemini skin, which allows me to be playing AoE, my one and only. So once more, Mag mains win again. I think what draws me to Mag over everyone else, aside from, AoE, is how much of a rock-solid all-rounder she simply is. She's not perfect, and she's certainly not, the strongest Warframe in the game that is going to trivialize all content, because I feel like that's probably Protea. But she is in such a terrific state that playing her just feels great no matter what, right? Recent updates like the Shield Gate changes have made Mag significantly more durable as well. She's not super duper tanky like Steinex or Revenant, but being able to abuse or use the mechanics like shields has certainly made her feel a lot more survivable than other Warframes. that, and I can make use of Arcane Aegis a lot, which is actually kind of busted. Her abilities have felt a lot more synergistic than ever before, thanks of course to the starter Warframe rework as of late 2022. So these days, my general gameplay of Mag tends to involve using her Polarize, which is her third ability, to generate shards, using Crush, which is her fourth ability, and the Augment in order to remove enemy armor, using Magnetize to magnetize a target, which in turn actually draws nearby enemies into that target to basically group up and create a bubble of death, and also later on that bubble exploding and killing everything, and also easily pulling enemies from far away into, of course, the magnetized bubble, or for other reasons, pulling them right in front of me. And then I shred them all with my bow. Or if I feel like it, I grind them all into dust with my swords. Well, that's the one thing I love about Mag. People often ask, hey, what kind of weapon synergizes with Mag? The answer is yes. Basically, any gun that has punch through or any bow will synergize really, really well with Mag through Magnetize, but then also because of Magnetize and by extension Pull, any melee weapon also synergizes with Mag really, really well. So yeah, she's absolutely fantastic. Now, over the years, Mag has received a lot of buffs in the game. A few reworks to her kit, as well as a few reworks to some general systems in the game like shields, has effectively meant that in the year of our Lord 2025, I have arrived at this 10 former build. Let me repeat that again. 10 former build. That's way more former than is actually represented in the build, but it is what it is. That I am now currently using on my Mag Prime. On top of these mods and arcanes that I'm using on this build here, I'm also using 3 Tau Forged Purple Archon shards, one of which is the Scuffed Equilibrium type, one of which is the Melee Crit Damage type, which I might swap out on a whim, but at the present moment, that's what I'm using, and one is the Primary Electricity type. I've been really liking that one a lot, actually. And then I'm also using 1 Tau Forged Yellow Archon Shard, being the Scuffed Preparation type, and then 1 Tau Forged Red Archon Shard, being plus Duration. The main highlights of my Mag Prime build are the 3 augments, being able to pop the magnetized bubbles early, being able to stun enemies with guns using Polarize, and of course being able to do heavy armor stripping with Crush. This, by the way, was one of the major buffs that Mag received in 2022 with the augment buffs, as well as Prime Redirection. This singular mod has allowed me to just simply overcap the shield gate duration buff that everyone received at 2023. And then of course Arcane Aegis being one of the arcanes I'm using. It's arguably the strongest survivability option in the game, in my opinion. And then I'm now using Summoner's Wrath, which is actually a rather new mod that has been made available in Warframe 1999 on a slot that has been aura formatted, so it is of course a universal aura slot. I might swap it out someday, but at the present moment I've just been kind of going crazy with regards to the Kubrow damage, so Summoner's Wrath is definitely contributing to that. And that's the thing. Summoner's Wrath is kind of hilarious because of Kubrow damage. So that should lead us into... Morrigan is a Sunika Kubrow. I'm not sure if it's going to make a huge difference what kind of Kubrow she is, but that's exactly what she is. The main takeaway from that is that she absolutely destroys everything for some reason. Yeah, the companion rework that happened recently means this dog is going crazy. Now, in the old days, if you accidentally let your companions die, they stay dead for the rest of the mission. Thankfully, that's no longer the case. And on top of that, we have mods available that basically reward active gameplay with reviving your companion a lot faster. So whilst in my gameplay it might look like I don't actually care that Morrigan is on the ground whimpering and trying to get back up on her feet, the reality of the situation is that I'm fully aware that my doggo needs help, and I am aiming at heads and finding XMI to kill, specifically in service of the goal of getting my doggo back up and running, so that she then shreds enemies left, right, and center. I will say though, sometimes it feels like I'm suffering from success, because when I'm playing with Morrigan, she just runs up to something and kills it, and then kills everything next to it, and I was about to shoot it. I was like getting ready to aim and shoot something in the head, but they die instead to my dog. So I can't really do much about that, because Morrigan just ran up to them and chomped them in the balls. Now, obviously, like I mentioned, Morrigan is absolutely insane, and the 8 former build I have on her is in fact the build that I use when I'm specifically running with Mag, only because I am using both a linked redirection mod and I'm not using a specific bond mod called Seismic Bond, because the only way to make Seismic Bond work is to actually channel your defensive magnetize, which I don't use. But if I were to use this particular build with, let's say, Hildren, yeah, I'd be running Seismic Bond 100%. But either way, putting all of that aside, I am, of course, running 3 bonds. Momentous Bond is why I keep searching for Examite to kill in order to revive her and also give her some extra damage. And Duplex Bond means that I can potentially have 3 dogs running around, which is fantastic, because there's only one thing that's better than 1 dog, and that's 2 dogs, and there's only one thing that's better than 2 dogs, which is of course 3 dogs. I tend to spam my abilities often, so I do see a somewhat regular occurrence of just 3 versions of Morrigan just running around shredding enemies all over the place. Tenacious Bond also means that if her claws have more than 50% crit chance, well then all my weapons get a flat crit damage buff. And here's the thing, her claws definitely have more than 50% crit chance. The one former build that I have on these claws is actually beyond degenerate. It's tons of damage, tons of crit, as well as a fair bit of status, modded to also include radiation, because why not, and blast damage. And if you've played with blast damage before, you know that if you were to kill someone that's holding on to a lot of damage in a blast proc, that tends to explode and kill everyone around them. Now, I have actually considered the mod Hull of the Week, but I think for a build like this, it doesn't really work because I have like 91% crit chance. And so I guess if you're using it on a claw build that is pure status chance, then I guess that could be working. But either way, thanks to Hunter Synergy, that is how I get a lot of crit chance on these claws, because Hunter Synergy takes into account the crit chance on my primary weapon, which of course is my Paris Prime. So, let's now have a look at The Paris Prime is a Mastery Rank 8 weapon. Currently, we do not have Warframe or weapon usage rates for 2024, so suffice to say, considering that it was used only 0.38% of the time in 2023, I feel like that should be an indicator of even current community sentiment towards the bow. The vast majority of players in this community probably are definitely using something else. In fact, there is a non-zero chance that the 3 in 0.38 is me. But having used plenty of newer bows in the game, including popular ones like the Natarok, nothing else really comes close to specifically my Paris Prime. And this is definitely something that I think is unique to me, and it's entirely because of my God Roll Rivens that I have on it. Yes, you heard that right. Rivens. Plural. I have 2 of them. Well, I have 1 of them definitely, and I'm currently working on a second one. I'd say rivets are an integral part of the Paris Prime experience, since this is of course a very early weapon. It's probably not designed to be all that strong in the first place, right? So to compensate, we have a 5-dot riven disposition. Wow. The strongest type of riven disposition you can get in the game. Between this and the several buffs that this bow has received over the years, I feel like it's a grossly underrated weapon. Now, one of the major updates it received was, of course, the Paris Incarnon, whereby its Incarnon form actually fires a wave of death at enemies as opposed to just some arrows. So the overall gameplay is more or less the same, but it is, of course, now an AoE bow as opposed to a single target bow. Now, I don't know if there is a bug or something, but for some reason, it seems like the AoE wave of death does seem to be doing noticeably lower numerical single target damage compared to the regular mode. So I have been playing a lot more of the regular mode lately as opposed to the Incarnon form. But if you have a look at the stat page of the Paris Prime, everything screams that should not be the case. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. I feel like it's a bug. But either way, these Incarnon options that I have chosen on the bow are number 2, I guess, because number 1 is actually just the Incarnon form, but number 2 being more damage when overshielded. I actually forgot I had this, so but I guess I use it from time to time because I'm mag. Number 3 is faster arrows, And then number 4 is more status chance. This is of course a base status chance increase that will of course be later affected by status chance mods. So with that in mind, the current build that I've been using on my Paris Prime has been this one. The main highlights include primary acuity. This is of course a new mod that came in Warframe 1999. This is a wildly powerful mod for headshot gameplay, which is exactly what I've been getting into a lot more lately. I did an entire video on this mod because it's just really interesting and it's very different. Essentially, it rewards skill with completely unnecessary damage increases and, in my case, red double exclamation mark crits, which we love to see. Visage Bal, which is of course the special healing mod for the Paris Prime. And then of course Longbow Sharpshot, because I'm always aiming for and usually hitting heads. So we do love that. I suspect other weak points work as well, but I'm not 100% sure about that. And finally, of course, the Riven. Again, this is God Roll Riven attempt number 2. Now, because of primary acuity, I am currently looking for 3 positive rolls and a negative multi-shot roll. Preferably crit rolls and preferably a damage roll, but if I don't get the damage roll, I'm fine taking something funny. So yeah, we'll just see what ends up rolling later on in the future. Pretty sure I've seen these kinds of rolls before, so I feel like it's only a matter of time before I see another one. The only reason why I'm not using my original God Roll Riven is because I actually want more status chance now. I'm kind of getting addicted to at least the electric procs that are coming from the purple Archon shard that I have on Mag, but on top of that, I also may consider modding it for Blast one day. So I want there to be more status chance for Blast, especially because I don't have any multi-shot on this build at all. But all of this to say, I tend to rely on my Paris Prime the most when it comes to doing damage to enemies. And so therefore I have a secondary weapon of choice that exclusively exists as a support utility weapon in order to buff both Mag and Paris Prime. And that is of course the Skyward Atlas is a Grimoire. And its main purpose is to coat enemies in a variety of status effects with its primary fire, to then use its alt fire in order to provide AoE with up to 10 energy per second regeneration for 20 seconds, and also to mark enemies to be killed so that AoE's shield recharge can be a lot faster. That's basically it. Really, really straightforward indeed. And so to satisfy that goal, this is the build that I am using on it. Multi-shot allows secondary and combo to activate multiple times, otherwise Zata is how I get energy regeneration, and Fast is how I get shield recharge and recharge delay reduction, so that's really, really nice. So yeah, there's not really a whole lot that needs to be said. It's a really solid support weapon. And I suppose one thing to note is that because of the different status effects that you can actually have on this weapon thanks to, secondary compa, that is of course going to be really, really good for Gundition Overload on the Paris Prime. But on top of that, it's really, really good for Condition Overload, which I will be having on my... I never made a video on Tennokai, so I'll just say it right here, right now. I heckin' love Tennokai, but almost exclusively on great swords. Look, when you hear the word Tennokai, you may think that this mechanic should be most enjoyable on fists and or sparring weapons like the Prisma Obex, but I have actually only been specifically enjoying it the most on great swords. I don't know how that happened, but that's exactly what happened. And ever since Tennokai, I have been swapping between specifically Galatine and Grand Prime, so yeah, like I used to be big on swords and shields, but ever since Tennokai came out, I've been really, really big on the big swords. Today I've landed on the Grand Prime, but what's cool about Tennokai is that great swords and this loadout seems to synergize really, really well. I found that Mag just is really, really useful for enabling just what Tennokai basically is. Because there's two things in particular about Mag that makes her really, really great for melee. I know, you probably have never heard that before as a concept, but let me explain. First off, we have a magnetized bubble. It draws enemies in and it groups them all together, so that is really, really nice because you want to be able to hit everyone. And then on top of that, pull, because it pulls enemies right in front of you. Which means my melee gameplay often involves some melee attacks which could potentially also fling enemies across the map, but knowing that enemies are flying away from me or running away from me, I pull their ass back in. There is no escape. I don't normally use my sword all that much, I definitely prefer shooting, but there have been some melee enemies, especially lately, that are annoying enough to try and aim at, and, you know, that's when the Mega Blade comes out. So this is the build that I am using on my Grand Prime. The main highlight is, of course, Melee Animosity, which is a new arcane that I think came with Whispers in the Wall. That way I can have red, single exclamation mark, crit, heavy attacks. On top of that, Dreamer's Wrath, which I think is my favorite Tennokai mod. Galvanized Reflex, in case I screw up. And Galvanized Steel, because it's a double crit mod. Genshin players out there, you may be able to empathize with this for a second. It's a double crit mod! Oh, and Cleaving Whirlwind for the win. I tend to prefer it a lot more than Temple Royale, just simply because it feels better to use, right? So all of this to say, I sometimes go into using melee, and when I do, this has been the most enjoyable way that I have experienced melee, especially in quite some time. Yeah, I do actually like meleeing with Mag, which is not really something that she's traditionally associated with. But there we go. Whew. Well done, everyone. We've managed to make it to the end of the video. So, in summary, Aoi is hot, and she's really strong, and she's busted. My Paris Prime continues to be goated. The Skyward Atlas is here to help. And if all else fails, grab your sword, and I'll start swinging. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. What's your loadout looking like in 2025? And are you a new player? If you are a new player, maybe there has been something that I've shown today that has piqued your curiosity. Let me know if anything like that has happened in the comments below. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Warframe content. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.